name's Banana, and this is my 4-man Croesus guide. I'm gonna see how fast I can speedrun this. We'll see. Hopefully this goes better than not. And here we go. Okay. So Croesus is essentially there's two requirements to do Croesus. One of them is logs, preferably Protean, just because they stack, and the other is restores, just because this boss fight reduces your stats. So there's some recommendations for things to bring to Croesus. One of them is the scaling outfits. Then you have the Juju potions or Perfect Plus Plus potion. You have the Gathering Cape, Fishing Cape or Hunter Cape work as well. However, the Gathering Cape is preferred just so that you can you get the benefit regardless of what happens. And then there's also the spell, I think it's called Crystal Mask, which requires these runes, but it helps immensely because it eliminates some of the stat drain as well as ignores one of the mechanics. And then there's some helpful items such as the Taga's Core Hammer, Artificer's Measure here. You have the Magic Butterfly Net, the Fishing Rodomatic, um, and then Sana's Fry Torch, which helps. Then you also can use things like Extreme Hunter Potions for the core. Shadow's Grace provides you with the effects of mobile perk, except you don't need a mobile perk. Otherwise, having access to Bladed Dive and the Switch or to Double Surge helps immensely. Having auras also helps. And then also having the fully charged Shadow Pontifex Ring helps with something. I can't recall fully what, but it's supposed to reduce, I think it might reduce the amount of stats that are drained. And with that, then you have the familiars, which are the Gargoyle, Granite Lobster, Beaver, and Arctic Bear. If you can't use gargoyles, you can use a Lava Titan. That works out fine. So what is Croesus? Croesus is a level 6000 skilling boss that utilizes the 4 gathering skills of fishing, hunting, mining, and woodcutting. She has 6 basic mechanics. These mechanics fire off about every 12 seconds throughout the fight, and she has scaling HP. However, in 4 mans, this only scales up to 130k. So she has 6 mechanics as mentioned previously: the Smoke Cloud, Fairy Ring, Slime Mold, Stun Nut, Sticky Fungus, and Energy Fungus mechanics. So they usually run a rotation, and I found this out through some trial and error, but it's Smoke Cloud, Fairy Ring, Slime Mold, and then she'll throw another Smoke Cloud at you, which will then, Stun Nut will come after that, followed by Sticky Fungus. Energy Fungus spawns after these 2 rotations have been run twice, and so in the example, so it would run this rotation once, and then it will run this rotation again, and then when the sticky fungus spawns, the energy fungus will spawn simultaneously, and so half the encounter will have to deal with the sticky fungus while the energy fungus is up. These will continuously happen throughout the fight until the core is open, and then you can just DPS and end the fight. So the first mechanic is called Smoke Cloud, or I'm calling it Smoke Cloud. A sea pod lands and spreads smoke over a 3x3 area, and to deal with this mechanic, you can either preemptively drop the smoke and then run back to the sparkling node, or you can just drop the smoke and run to the normal node and keep farming. The second mechanic is called Fairy Ring. In my opinion, it's called Fairy Ring. So fumes spawn on the ground near your feet, and a fairy ring will appear underneath you. Once this fairy ring is fully constructed, it will teleport you to a random corner of the arena. This mechanic will rot 1 resource if it teleports you, and the way you deal with this mechanic is you step 1 tile away from wherever the fairy ring is appearing. You can use this mechanic to actually save some time running, but that's something that you can utilize later. So next the next mechanic that you have to deal with is what I call the slime mold. So an orange slime lands on the ground and will just hone in on you. There's nothing you can really do about this other than have it stuck behind a barrier or use Crystal Mask to deal with it. But there's 3 ways to deal with it. You can tank it and sip a Super Restore, you can use Crystal Mask, or you can get stuck behind a barrier. It's recommended not to do the third option. So after that, we have the Stun Nut mechanic, which essentially you'll see a red nut or like ball fall from the sky and land. It can land on you, and if it does, it will provide a stunned and bound debuff. Otherwise, and then in that case, you just freedom it, or you can anticipate it. But if you're moving while it falls, it won't hit you, so it doesn't matter. So the mechanic after that is called Sticky Fungus. Sticky Fungus just instantly spawns at your feet and prevents you from moving or doing anything. And to deal with this mechanic, you need to just have a log in your inventory and click on your feet, and it will say remove sticky fungus. So this mechanic affects half the encounter, or in format, it'll just affect 2 people. So the next mechanic is called Energy Fungus. So a red fungus spawns toward the center of each quadrant, toward Croesus, and they all have a shared health bar, so it doesn't matter which one you start to remove. They spawn at 2 minutes and 25 seconds and 5 minutes respectively. You want to prioritize this mechanic as it gives the most contribution points of any mechanic, and so you want to deal with this mechanic first before removing the sticky fungus. If you are sticky fungused, if not, or if you get sticky fungus before you get to this mechanic, you want to remove the sticky fungus as fast as possible and get on this mechanic. So let's break down the kill. The kill itself is broken down into 4 parts, and the usual strategy that you will see used is the 2-1 rot strategy. So the 4 parts are gathering, running, rot restore, and the DPSing mechanics. And you'll notice here that it says that you need 15 of each resource for to restore each of the statues. I'll explain a little bit later why you gather slightly more than that. So the gathering phase, the goal is technically to gather 32 resources overall. So you want to gather 16 resources and drop them into the deposit box, and then you want to collect 16 more resources to run to the opposite side of the arena or to run long. Um, with that being said, you want to prioritize killing the node, and the way that you do this is by filling the bar. So in order to fill the bar, you need to be gathering resources. In this case, we're catching fungal algae at the Leviathan, and so you want to gather from the sparkling node when you can. So you want to prioritize the sparkling node, and if you can't gather from the sparkling node, you want to gather from the normal node, and then you want to avoid the dead node because the dead node gives you rot and will deplete your progress bar in killing the node. It's also worth noting that fishing and hunting gather relatively quickly, so you may want to grab rot at one of these 2 locations if you're mining or woodcutting, as they're faster. So now you have this second step, which is running. So there are 2 different lengths, and they alternate between the 2. And so the first one is either mushroom field or mushroom hurdles. So the mushroom field essentially is like a maze that you have to weave your way through to get to the other side. Realistically, you just double surge straight through it, or bladed dive to the center and surge across. The mushroom hurdles, you find the mushroom that has sparkling, you click on it, you hurdle it, and then you just continue through. There are 4 hurdles that you have to clear. If you do not clear a sparkling hurdle, then you end up losing a resource and having your stats drained. So in this diagram here, we're starting at mining, and we're running long, or 2, which is in blue here. And then once you get over here, you withdraw the resources from the drop box, and then you run short, or 1, or red, and that's indicated in the red arrow here. And then you deposit that at the statue, and then you can continue on. So next up, you have the rot restoring phase, where you'll notice that I have 10 rot. You obtain rot by clicking on resources in your inventory. This will rot them. However, you can also gain it by gathering from a dead node location. However, that's not recommended, as you can't do that from the node if it's fully dead. So once you reach your second location, you can add the resources to the statue and then rot the node. Not necessarily in that order, but rot is but it works out that way. And so once you get there, you can click on the statue, and to restore the statue, there was a lot of debate about this early on, whether or not it's you want to try and 2-tick to restore the statue or not, and realistically, it doesn't matter. I don't think it actually changes anything if you decide to try and time out clicking immediately after um, the XP drop. Optionally, you can pre-pray, and you want to stop before you finish praying, so that you get the second energy fungus. And then if you're the slowest member on your 4-man team, you only need 3 statues to clear the encounter, and you only get points for the first 75% of the restoration of the statue. And so if you can estimate that out, you don't have to fully restore your statue. Finally, you have the DPS phase, which usually occurs after the second energy fungus. So you finish praying, and then the core or Croesus's core will open, allowing you to damage the boss. So if you escape back from the statue after praying, it will put you within like 2 tiles of the core. And so in order to kill the core and damage the core, you want to just click on it once and then just sit there and wait. Your character will start to gather from the core, and that will effectively damage Croesus. You will see the spores coming up here. The spores sparkle. While damaging the core, you may see these appear, and you can click on the core again to clear these sparkles. They give extra damage as well as contribution points. However, if you see red spores, you want to stop. You don't want to click them whatsoever. Finally, we have the rewards, which on average I found that it's about 8 to 9 mil an hour, give or take, depending on what happens. That is, at current prices, it could change a little bit. However, with manuscripts, the GP gets pushed up to 11 to 14-ish mil an hour, and you can expect to get a unique every 5 to 6 hours. The unique prices vary from 1.8 mil with the Spore Sack to 670 mil with the Crypt Bloom top, and then Elder Troves are just extra bonus GP on top of that.